Hello and welcome back to class, dear students. Today we are going to talk about how we can use case statements for conditional logic. You can imagine case statements like using if else function in Excel. If this is like this, then give us that. Okay, so that's basically what case statement is used for. We are making use of this healthcare data set. For this explanation, we want to teach our query how to make smart decisions even in a hospital data set. Case statements basically allows conditional logic in our query. You can use it in the select, where, order by, and even join. Okay, and it's also useful for creating human readable labels and categories. So let's try to create a new column using this case conditional logic. Okay, so we'll be using it for this billing amount. So first, let me start by checking the maximum for this column and the minimum. Okay, so I just wanted to see the maximum billing amount and minimum billing amount from that column. And as you can see, minus 2008 is the minimum because the second one is the minimum and this is the maximum. Okay, so let's proceed to write our case statement. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to say that if my billing amount is greater than 20K, okay, this is about approximately 53K. So I want to say that if my billing amount is greater than 20K, I want to call it I billing, sorry. And if it is between let's say 1K to 20K, I want to call it moderate billing. Okay. And if it is less than anything less than that, we want to call it low billing. All right. Let's say I want to spice it up by adding the doctor column such that I want to see the doctor that's charged low billing or high billing or moderate billing. Okay. So now what I would do is we always start with our select query. All right. So now we'll select the columns we want to see. I said we should spice it up by adding the doctor column. Okay. So I want to see the doctor's column. I also want to see the billing amount column. Now I will specify my condition. Your condition, you specify it after you indent it, right? So you're not starting your case here. No, you have to indent it because it will be inside this select query. Then if I'm writing it under, it's going to be under this because it's just like, see, this indentation is just like, okay, in this select, this is everything I want to select. Okay, for this from, so you can add the tab that from this table. So that's just how indenting works. You're saying that after you select, come and select all this one. Then in the select, we want to add a condition inside it. So that is why we indented the case. Okay, and then if we come down here now, we want to specify the conditions that will be in our case statement. So we also have to indent it to specify. So I can say case when billing amount. So I said if my billing amount is greater than 20K, right? It should tell us that that is high billing, right? Now we can go to the next line and specify the other conditions. So I want to say that when my billing amount is between, okay, I said between 1K, right? I said between 1K and 20K. We want to call it moderate billing. Then moderate billing. Okay, so if it doesn't fall under any of these category, what should happen? So I'll say that else. That means that if it is less than 1K, else we want to call it low billing. All right. Now we are done with our query. We are basically saying that when the billing amount is greater than 20K, high billing. For billing between 1,000 to 20,000, moderate billing. And for billing less than that, we want to call it low billing. Okay, so once you are done writing all of your condition, where this case started, the indent where your case started, you're going to write end. You're going to end that conditional logic there. So you're going to say end as, if you want to rename the column, we use as for naming the column. So I'm specifying all these condition, case, blah, blah, blah. Then I've ended the case I started. So I want to name the column that this will be in. So I'm just going to say as, let's just call it billing category. Okay, so now I've ended the case that I started. And now we have to specify from what table we are getting the data from. So I can easily say from healthcare. Now let's run this and see what happens. Can you see now that we said it should show us the doctor's column, the billing column, and then apply this condition and save it as billing category column. So now we have billing category column. This one is between 1,000 and 2,000, which is moderate billing. And this is how you can create a new column based on conditional logic in SQL. So I want to give you an exercise to do quickly. So you can pause this video and do the exercise, and then you can play it back once you are done to continue. Okay, so I want you to classify patients based on their admission urgency. Okay, so now we have ID, the column you are going to show me as your result. You're going to get the ID column and also the admission type column that we have here. Okay, so you are showing me three column: ID column, admission type column, and the third one which will be based on the condition that is specified. Okay, so from this admission type column, you're going to write a case statement that when the admission type is emergency, then we want to change it from emergency to critical. Okay, instead of emergency, we want to call it critical. So whenever the admission type is emergency, we want to call it critical, and whenever the admission type is urgent, then we want to call it needs attention. Okay, so otherwise, if it is not any of these two categories, it's not emergency or urgent, we want to call it planned visit. Right, so I'll give you 5 minutes to do that. Let's go. And I hope you paused the video and by now you are done writing your query. If your query looks exactly like mine, then you are absolutely correct. I said we want to classify patients based on their admission urgency. We are getting the ID column, the admission type column, and the column where we are going to specify the condition. Now I said if the admission type is emergency, then it should change it to critical. If the admission type is urgent, it should tell us that this person needs attention. And otherwise, if it doesn't fall under these two categories, then it should say planned visit. And then I'm calling my new column name admission priority from the healthcare table. So let's run it now. And this is what we have. This will basically help hospital admins to filter out who need priority care. And from here, you can see this ID 102 is in a critical condition, and these are the top priority patients that we need to attend to first. So in this case, you can see that we used our case statements inside our select query, right? We can also use our case statements in the order by query. We want to sort the patients, right, based on their test results. As you can see from our data set, we have the patient's ID, we have the test results column, which is right here. So from the test results, you can see we have abnormal, we have normal, we have inconclusive, right? For patients that their test result is abnormal, we want to give it number 1 so that it can stay on top of our report or our dashboard. For the patient that is like inconclusive, we are going to label it 2. Now the patients that are normal, we want to label it 3. Now first step is to use the select query to specify all the columns you want to see. I want to see the ID column, and I also want to see the test results column. Test results column. Okay, now I'm not going to specify my case statement inside the select. Remember, we are trying to use the case statement in our order by. So I'll just go on my query by saying I'll specify the table I want to get it from, which is the healthcare table. And now in the order by query, now we want to order it by the test results. So I want to say order by. So inside the order by is where I'll now have my condition. I'll now say case, then when, So case when the test result, whenever the test result equals to abnormal like we have here, abnormal. Okay, then, and when our test result, our patient test result is inconclusive. Okay, then we want it to give us 2. All right, so if it's not part of any of these two categories, then we want to say it should give us 3. If you have more than 5 categories, you can keep using when. The last one is, if it doesn't find any match there, then it can reference this last one that we use else for. Okay, and then we can now end our case statements. Okay, so I'm just going to end it. Now let's try to run it. Okay, so I have an error that says incorrect syntax near the keyword from. This is from incorrect syntax near it. Okay, I'm not supposed to add comma for the last column that I'm selecting, and that is why we have that error. So let's rerun it now. So now we have the patient ID and the test result. I know you are wondering that it's supposed to give us another column now. Remember that we did not use the case statement in the select query. Select is when you have another column that it will show you. but we just want to order it by the condition that we specify, not that we are asking it to show us the column. So now it has ordered it such that the abnormal patients, can you see the abnormal patients are coming first? So it's going to show all the abnormal patients first before it will now show the other categories. Can you see? Before it will show inconclusive and normal. Okay, so now let's discuss nested case, all right, in SQL. Nested case sounds like a big grammar, but it is not very big. Okay, so it just means that we are using a case statement inside another case statement. When we were working with if statements in Excel, you remember that there was a time I did if statements inside another if statement. Exactly. So that is what we do in the nested case statement. But you have to be careful when you are using it as a beginner. So for our nested case, we try to categorize our patients by their age and gender for targeted outreach. So let's say we want to have an outreach in our company and we want to categorize our patients by age and gender. How can we do that? Using the nested case statement. And now we want to write our query. First, we want to see the age, gender of the patient. So we are going to include the ID, the age, and the gender for the patient. That's what we want to use for our targeted outreach. So we want to say that any female that is less than 30, we want to call them young female. Any female that is maybe greater than 30, we can call them adult female. And if they don't fall under these two categories, we can just call them male. To start with my select query, I'm going to select the columns that I need to see, which is ID, age, and gender. So I'm going to start by selecting ID, then select age, then select gender. Okay, once I'm done selecting all the query, I now want to specify my condition, right? Now I'm going to use my case statement. So I want to say that case when the gender is female. As you can see in this column, we have different gender. We have male and female. So my first condition is that if the gender is female, then what should happen if the gender is female? If the gender is female, I now want to further categorize it into the young female and the adult female. So that means I'm going to use another case statement inside this original case statement. And that's what nested case is. Okay, so let me quickly do a recap so we don't get it complicated. So now we are saying that we want to see three columns: ID, age, and gender. I want to specify my first condition using the gender column. We have male and female gender. So I want to say that, okay, if the gender is female, then, and I want to specify that if the gender is female and the person is less than 30, then it should be young female. So I'm going to have another case statement inside this one. So I'm going to have case. The reason why I indented it here is because I want to have this case statement inside this one. That means that this condition must have been met before you now come inside this place. Okay. If the condition is not met, it's just going to skip it. That's why I'm using the indenting. Okay, so now I want to specify my second case now. So I can say that case when the age is less than 30, then we want to call them young female. Okay, and when the age is greater than 30, we want to call it adult female. Since it's just two categories we want to have, then we can just say else. Whoever is greater than 30, we just want to call it adult female. All right, I hope you understand this and I'm not complicating things. So once you are done, you know you have to end this case. This one now we specify the condition inside. Okay, so we have to end this one because this is all we want to say. We don't have any other thing to say. We are done talking. I'm just going to end this particular query. After ending this query, you know I still have this first one that I've not ended. This is the one I ended here. And you can see from my indenting, you can see that wherever I started the case, the indent is where I'm ending it. But I've not ended this one that is up here. So I'm specifying a condition that when the gender is female and the person is less than 30, young female. If the person is greater than 30, adult female, that's the condition. What if the gender is not female? What should now happen? Let's go back to this first case. What if the gender is not female? If the gender is not female now, then it will be male, right? So we can just come to this line and say that, you see, case when gender equals to female. So this is where we are going to end it. So we can just say else. The gender will be male or it will be others. So let's say we have more than two genders. So I can just say male or others will be the gender. Okay. And once I'm done with that query, I can end it right here as well. So I'm just going to end. And I can rename it end as, let's just call it segment. Okay. And then we'll specify the table that we want to apply all of this from. So I can say from healthcare. Okay, so let's start by reading out this query. Select 3 column, ID, age, and gender. The first category is female gender. The second category is male gender. Add more condition for the female gender, that if the gender is female, less than 30, we want to call it young female. If it is greater than 30, adult female. But if the gender is not female, then we want to call it male or others. We ended both case statements. This end is for this first case statement, and this end right here is for this second case statement. And that is all that we did. So let's run it now and see what we have. Okay, I can see an error here. We are probably going to get an error if I had run it. So let's run this now. Incorrect syntax near the word case. Okay, looks like we missed a comma here. Okay, so now we have our table, our new table from the case statements that we just created. We have the ID column, we have their ages, their gender, which is the 3 column we said it should show us. And then we said it should show us another column in the case. I wrote segments instead of segments, sorry about that. So, and then we have the segments column. Okay, so now we said that if the gender is not female, it should call it male or other. So it's giving us male or other. If the gender is female, now, if the gender is female, it has to now check the age of that female to be able to categorize whether it's young female or adult female. Now, if the gender is female here, it's 76. That means that it is greater than 30. So it is categorizing it as adult female. If it is female, it will come and check the gender 28. 28 is less than 30, so that's young female. And that is how we just categorize the patients in this example by age and gender. And we can use this for healthcare marketing, for outreach segmentation. It's been a very, very long day, and I know you are already like, oh my God, what did I sign up for? But it is worth it. Trust me, it is worth it. You're going to enjoy writing queries when you actually understand it and know how it works. These are some tips that you should keep in mind when you are writing your case. You want to make sure that you keep your logic readable. You use spacing and indenting like I've used. That's the way to differentiate it and know, okay, this one is working for this. Okay, this one is working for this. But imagine that you wrote everything together, you just jump past it. It's going to work, but you are going to get confused. That's just the thing. And always add an else to catch anything unexpected. Like, for example, this part where we used categories, we have abnormal, inconclusive. We might have other categories. So we can use else to catch that. Okay? So we've come to the end of this class. I would encourage you to practice everything we said in this class. And if you're in the paid community, I'm most likely going to drop more business questions for you that you can use to practice these case statements in SQL so you can be a professional artist. Okay? And if you like all the teachings that you've been learning so far, it took me lots of resources and time to make this video. You can show me some love in the pinned comments. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and bye for now.